right. Okay, everybody. Thank you for coming back. This is Dan,
This is Mark.
and today you are in for a treat. We are going to rank the 11 live action movies from Star Wars. And Mark, go ahead and you're
I
smiling there. Go ahead and
I was trying to get us to talk about cartoons too, and so I said, "Oh, we should do three theatrical," and then Dan said, "The animated one," which made me think that he hasn't seen it, which actually turns out to be true.
hey man, there's a lot of content. I'm not saying I wouldn't be opposed to watching it. I just didn't know.
Oh, it wouldn't be ranked last for me. I'll put it
Truth
that
be
way.
told, so Mark,
I
you
have
are
kind of
the
a
Star
problem.
you're the Star Wars guru for everything. I'm I would probably say I'm a more than average fan, but I'm definitely not in the expert level. I don't know all of the books and all the other stuff that's related to it. I don't have a Yoda flashlight on my
On hand,
bookcase.
it's not behind me because I'm in the Falcon,
Yes,
obviously.
I'm here with my two droid pals, but yeah. Do you want to talk a little bit about why we wanted to rank the Star Wars films?
I think that we thought that it would be just good baseline. We've had conversations about Marvel for years. We've had conversations about like every quote unquote nerd property there is, but the two right now that are the most popular and generating the most money are Star Wars and um, Marvel. So you got to start somewhere. So why not start with the heavy hitters? Get our opinions out of the way. Let people know where we stand, and then let them absolutely tear us up because our opinions about our best loved treasures don't line up with our thinking on other things. So it's like letting people know where we come from before they hear our obscure takes on movie musicals starring Hugh Jackman.
Whew. Hey man, that's Wolverine you're talking about.
Yeah, yeah.
um,
That is the greatest showman. That's who he is.
so to give a little bit of background about me and my Star Wars experience, so I basically grew up, and we talked a little bit about this on the last episode, but I grew up watching A New Hope and Empire and Jedi back when it was on Betamax. So I would put these movies, they were on like a regular rotation when I was younger. I would put in, you know, New Hope, Empire, Terminator, Back to the Future. Those would be like the movies like on constant loop. A few other ones in there as well too, like Karate Kid. But um, yeah, I think this is going to be a fun time. Like I said, I am not the Star Wars expert, and you are the viewers out there, but also you, Mark, you were probably going to be driven a little bit crazy because I'm going to go full hypocrite on this conversation and this ranking because there are going to be so many different things that you are going to, you're going to cock your head and you're just be like, what are you talking about? You said you liked that in the last movie and you hate it in this one. Hey man, that's me as the above average casual fan. But let's get this going. Um, Mark, why don't you tell me your last ranked Star Wars movie? So we're going from first to worst.
We're going from worst to
I'm
first.
sorry, worst to first.
Worst to first.
Yes.
You gave me a great transition, and then you gave me that. So I think this is going to go swimmingly. I'm really excited. But to answer your question, to give you my last ranked Star Wars movie, it is absolutely 100% could not be more passionate about the fact that Rian Johnson's The Last Jedi is the worst Star Wars movie that's ever been made.
Okay, I'm not going to divulge my answer just yet, but why?
There are so many reasons. Um, I think that all the fan service that J.J. Abrams built up in The Force Awakens was absolutely crushed in the first like 5 seconds of the movie. I don't know if it's 5 seconds. Somebody's gonna roast me on that. It's probably like 11.12 whatever seconds. But as soon as we're like the whole time in Force Awakens, we're like, Luke, where's Luke? They're going to show Luke, and they show Mark Hamill, and it worked for me. He pulls the cloak down. He's got the really intense face, and he doesn't have any words. And I'm like, that was like old school Star Wars cliffhanger. I'm down. I'm great. And then he chucks the lightsaber behind his head. Doesn't even look down it. Doesn't even give it the old eye check. Just whoop. And we get like emo Luke for the whole friggin' movie with his like snuffleupagus friends and the goddamn porgs. You want to talk about Ewoks are annoying, like you did when we'll get to Return of the Jedi. I love me some Ewoks, don't get me wrong, but porgs, you let Chewie eat in peace. Like you're fat shaming Chewbacca. What's going on here? The whole movie is just like we needed a Muppet. You don't need a Muppet until the third episode. It's okay.
So I'm gonna just chime in too. So I'm actually surprised by that because I thought that I remember from our conversations, I thought that you liked it a lot more than I did. I really hated that movie. So that is my number 11. That is my bottom of the barrel. It is one of those movies that I just thought the same thing. And in my opinion of it, so you said that Luke chucked the lightsaber. He didn't even chuck it. So that's kind of like a metaphor for that whole movie is like he casually tossed it behind his shoulder or whatever it was. And that's what this movie felt like, a casual like, I'll make a Star Wars movie. I'm going to shit on it, but it'll be a Star Wars movie.
You know what else it resulted in? The worst tasting beverage at Hollywood studios, the green milk.
I
So
never
bad.
even noticed that they did that, and I had visited there quite often. But oh man, so isn't that kind of weird? That like, let's talk a little bit about the weird shit. Luke becomes a hermit. Like, yeah, Yoda was a hermit, but I think it was more, self-imposed. I'm gonna be kind of weird, so that way it doesn't put off the Jedi vibe. Luke went full hermit on this one, and he was just like hobo with a shotgun. I'm a recluse. I'm a reject. I'm gonna suck on some like weird ass milk.
It was like he did everything that Uncle Owen told him old Ben did. Right? He told him everything that Obi-Wan was rumored to do. Luke was like, "Oh, that's how you're a hermit, so I'm gonna do that. Let's go." But there was no like black melons on the little island planet, so he had to drink from the teat of a really excited looking weird creature.
That was weird. I'm wondering if Ryan Johnson was just like, how much can I push the envelope on this and just get some like weird, pseudo-sexual alien shit with Luke. I mean,
So I liked Ryan Johnson up until that point. I even like him now after watching Knives Out, which is a great movie.
Awesome
great movie. What the hell? What the hell, man?
Do you think, it's more of us being fans and having the expectation about that, or was it a bad movie?
I think that there's a certain level of synergy that we've come to expect from the Star Wars franchises. There's a certain level of travel of the story. In the original trilogy, George took all the characters through. There was some foreshadowing, there was a reveal, there was all these things that went on. But it was written and owned from a story perspective by George Lucas. The prequels, much maligned through the years. Again, one mind, one final say, one creative lead, George Lucas. He got ripped so bad for the prequels. He was like, fuck you guys. I'm not making any more movies. I'll make some animated stuff that was actually insanely good. I'm a huge fan of the Clone Wars stuff. Eventually, down the line, maybe we'll talk about that. But I think that you had one person that was kind of owning it and really had a love affair with it. And then you got Disney just paying a shit ton for it, which I was excited at the time. I remember when people brought it up to me and I was like, you know what, give him a chance, give him a chance, give him a chance. They got the guy who revived Star Trek. The first two Star Trek J.J. Abrams movies were tight.
They were
tight.
Awesome.
And his take on it with changing it, but still making it amazing. We'll talk about those at one point because I love those movies. Love, love, love. But then you get him taking the first movie over. The first movie in what, like the last movie in the prequels came out in 2005, and Force Awakens came out in 2015. So it was 10 years since the last Star Wars movie. People were hungry for it. They were excited about it. JJ, though that movie's not amazing, it was great for fan service. Just a
Yeah.
ton of fan service. And then it was fan disservice. Oh, you like this character? Dead. Oh, you want to see Luke? Dead.
So I want to talk about Luke for a second. So this is one of my biggest things about it. And, the fact that Luke was supposed to be this badass Jedi, he was a person that was really going to bring balance, not Anakin, not that bullshit. He was the one that was going to bring balance, right? Jedi were coming back. He was going to be able to almost like retain nobility in the galaxy. But he becomes this sour ass old motherfucker. And then he doesn't even show up at the final battle, right? And so I have number one, it was very cool what he did. I thought that was really cool that he projected himself. Um, hold on, wait, let me finish here. I think it's a cool act. Do I think that I'm definitely wasn't fucking satisfied that he did that, but the thing that hurt the most, I'm not mad, I'm just disappointed, is the fact that you know Luke basically died from having poor cardio. And so like he projected himself out there, and this is a little, like I want you guys to start doing hashtag Luke has no cardio, because that's exactly what he did. He basically got too tired and died, and that's what Rian Johnson had him do. I think it's a lot of bullshit. You have him go out guns blazing, or maybe even like Obi-Wan, where he sacrifices himself so that way everyone else can go. I think that itself would be a great way and a noble ending, rather than passing out after a race and then dying. I don't know. That's just me. That's my biggest issue, that they made Luke not cool. Not, people do not aspire to be Luke after that movie. People will aspire to be the Porg. That there's a problem in itself right there, that Porgs became like a big thing. And yeah,
I mean,
that's my big takeaway from it.
Luke turned into a crazy cat lady with porgs who was living in a retirement home with his little caregiver people that would like fix the shit he broke like a whiny bitch. I mean,
It was funny.
what was up with that? Why was he in a nursing home? Yoda, when he went to be a hermit. Ben, when they went to be a hermit. They went to be alone with themselves. They talked about this noble approach to detaching himself from the Force because, oh, a bad. I messed up my vision, and I was gonna kill Kylo Ren. Kylo Ren again. The reason that I'm not a huge fan of the sequels in general, love the actor, just really, really. Um, so it just they took the character we all love and just took a big deuce on him. They did that to a lot of characters in that movie, including R2D2 in the sequels, where they're like, "Oh, he just kind of broke. He just we didn't charge his battery for this movie."
Was Kenny Baker still alive? Kenny Baker, the
Oh no,
original
Kenny
actor?
Baker been dead for a while.
Okay.
He had a relatively short life.
Hey. All right, but I will say I thought it was hilarious that Ray kept on fucking up shit on the island, and those poor maids basically just like would look at her like that was funny to me, but that was one of the few bright spots about that. I don't know. I don't really know
Those
if I want
maids,
to.
those maids emoted. Those maids didn't even emote as good as the pit droids in episode 1 that you now see in like the Mandalorian and stuff like that. Like hit it in the eye. Those, yeah, they didn't even emote to that level. They just were like, I'm a sad shaved snuffleupagus, man.
No, I mean I liked it. I thought it was funny. I didn't hate everything about the movie, but I thought, there's a lot of stuff that was very pointless. Um, Dude, I think we could probably talk about that all day. So maybe
Yeah,
we
we
should move
could
on
do
to
that
number
all day.
10.
We should move on. We agree on number 11.
1000%.
Okay. Do you want to go first for number 10?
Ooh, I think this one might this one get your band-aid out because this one's gonna cut you a little bit.
I think you're going to be surprised.
So the next one, or the next movie on my list from worst to first, is gonna be The Phantom Menace. Episode 1, The Phantom, bored as shit, horrible acting, really bad pacing, menace.
Mm.
All right, so let me explain. So in anticipation of everything, I'd only watched a few of these movies recently, but in the last 2 days, it is very fresh. I rewatched the prequels, and I also rewatched Rogue One, all in a matter of like 2 days. It's really crazy. But let me talk about Phantom Menace and the reason why I thought like, dude, this movie freaking sucks. So the initial battle, all right, I'm gonna nitpick here, but I'm gonna nitpick because
So
it's
when you
definitely
say
worth talking about.
initial battle,
The initial, like the first, like Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon.
the negotiation.
Yes,
Okay.
yes, dude. All right, so George Lucas has a lot of money, and I'm sure a lot of money got put into this movie.
Oh, oh, it did. It did. The
So
budget for for the Phantom Menace, not the highest budget of all the theatrical release Star Wars movies. Surprisingly, The Last Jedi, the largest budget of $317 million. That's in 2017 money. But in 1999 money, the budget behind the Phantom Menace was a skint $115 million.
okay, so I think they could at least put in 120 to fix Obi-Wan's hair. Dude, I rewatched that, and there are so many, especially in the first the negotiations. There was a clip of Obi-Wan with his awful wig, awful makeup, and his hair just looks absolutely wretched. Like, can't you just, do some editing, like take some of that droid CGI and make your hair look realistic? It
So,
was piss poor.
I'm going to defend with one single point, and it's not to defend anybody that worked on the movie, but I'm going to say this. This was, I believe I'm correct on this, and I've heard this a lot. I believe this was the first the first movie filmed in full digital. And if you know anything about lighting and the way that cameras capture things, full digital is different than 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 like
Sure,
film cameras.
it is.
So I cut them a little bit of slack on that. I don't think the hair that I didn't notice it that much. But again, I'm really excited because it's the first time I've seen a Jedi on the screen since 1983.
Okay. And hey, man, I get it. I completely get it, 100%. But even in playback, for all the editing and like if you're watching dailies or even maybe not even dailies, it just gets to the editors. You're going to tell me that you're going to say it's, to your point, this is the first time you've seen a Jedi in 10 years. You're not going to fix his fucking hair. It looks awful. If you haven't seen it recently, go back and watch it. I implore you to do so, and you will 100% agree. But going on, the
Did
dad
you feel this?
jokes.
Did you feel the same way about Anakin's hair at the end of the movie?
Hold on, wait, hold on. I'll
Okay,
get to
I'm just checking you on that
I'll get to
Padawan cut,
Anakin.
bro. Just checking
Um,
you on the Padawan cut.
the dad jokes in there, like, are you fucking serious? There was dad jokes in the Star Wars movies. Don't get it. I just
They're
don't
movies for
understand. And then,
kids.
well, hold on. I'm on a roll here because now my
Okay, you
blood's boiling.
roll.
I'm like, I have a slight fever going on right now, so it's just it's really irking me. Um, Jar Jar, dude, there's so many. Okay, I understand why people hate Jar Jar, and I was thinking like, you know what? It's probably they wanted to introduce another character, and it's warranted, but it's not. There is so many pieces of that movie that could just be axed or shortened and the movie would be just fine. And I think that is something that's kind of reoccurring throughout the prequels is that things were just too damn long and things were very, very unnecessary. Jar
Have
Jar,
so
the
side question. Side question. Have you seen the recut prequels?
the recut, I don't even.
This is something we could talk about offline or something. But for those people that feel the way you do, and there was so many of them that there is a fan recut version of each one of the first of the prequel movies. Legit, like they cut out parts they didn't like and they put them back out there. Just a little trivia knowledge out there. I think I have some copies of those randomly, but I've seen them and they eliminate things like I'm going to add to your list really quick. They cut out things like midichlorians and too much Jar Jar and that kind of stuff. But they're out there, so I might make you happy, Danny, later on.
Well, yeah, but here's the thing: that was not the theatrical release. And
No.
rewatching this on the great Disney Plus, dude, I am no movie editor. I'm not even a director. Um, but going through that stuff as an amateur, being the armchair quarterback for a movie, I was thinking like, dude, you could have gotten some college kid to edit that movie better because it was just too long, unnecessary scenes, unnecessary journeys throughout a lot of stuff. And it didn't even build character. All it did, and granted, we love to see the different planets out there and the different scenery. All it did was introduce scenery, and that is it. That's not enough for me to include it. And you know what? You probably could have cut out at least 15 minutes of each of those prequel movies. And if I'm not mistaken, George Lucas directed all three of those, correct?
Believe so.
Freaking edit 15 minutes out of those movies, they would have been better. Now, like I said, this is at the bottom of the barrel for me. Not quite as, shitty as Rian Johnson's Last Jedi, but yeah.
So one thing, you know that the Phantom Menace was nominated for 3 Academy Awards, right?
I didn't know that.
In sound editing, sound mixing, and visual effects.
That's fine. That is not overall movie editing. Sound editing is a big, big difference, and kudos to that because there is a lot of effects that go into that, and yeah, sound editing, fantastic. Yeah, I had no complaints about the sound. A lot of people don't necessarily watch movies and think about that stuff. I occasionally do. Going into these, I wanted to have the fan perspective, but also the amateur movie critic perspective. And from this amateur movie critic perspective, that editing in terms of scenes and flow, that is dog shit. And speaking of dog shit, Qui-Gon. Dude, all right. So I know there's a lot of people out there that think like Qui-Gon's like the coolest Jedi out of all of them, but he is like genuinely, if you look at it from face value, he is a literal piece of shit because he is okay for betting on Anakin for those pod races, and he just takes it upon himself to be like, hey, if he wins, then I take the boy and his mom. Like just out of nowhere, no discussion with them. Yeah, sure, they're slaves, whatever. But I think a Jedi, one of the most noble of people out there in the galaxy, they would at least have a discussion. Say, hey, I see that you're slaves. I want to help you. I think this is a really great way for your son, who I think has a lot of the Force in him. If he wins, which I have a really good feeling that he will, you will both be free. If I go to your slave owner, are you okay with this? He bypasses the normal, the normal oh gosh, I'm losing the word here. Just the normal things that people do is have conversation. He omits that, right? And really, Anakin could have died on that shit. Just flat out died. And he's okay. Like, I'm gonna bet on the kid. I'm gonna bet on the kid with his shitty pod that he built. And yeah, I'm gonna take him if he wins. And the after effect of it too, like when he does win, he's like, all right, kid, you're coming with me. And like the mom's just like completely like, okay, well, yeah, I'm gonna miss you, but my place is here. You need to go. And she's okay. She's a shitty mom, man. She's a shitty mom.
So a couple things. One, parents always want better lives for their kids. So if your kid was a slave, you'd probably want them to get away from that in any way
You
possible.
would fight
Especially
hard.
on a planet covered with sand. It's rough and it's coarse and it gets everywhere. Two, don't you think that might have been a plot point to show the flaws in the arrogance of the Jedi?
Absolutely, but it doesn't mean that he's not a piece of shit.
I mean, you could argue that Yoda's a piece of shit in the prequels.
I will get there.
Okay,
I will get there.
you go,
But
boy.
remember, hypocrisy is going to own these rankings. So that's another thing too.
That's all
But,
good. That's all good.
all right. And speaking of Anakin, dude, I was in pain watching this. You know what, man? Like, if they could have gotten like Macaulay Culkin for Anakin or something like that, like someone of that type of caliber. Macaulay Culkin is a young kid, Home Alone, acted great. Was it annoying at times? Sure, but all kids are. This kid could not act his way out of a paper bag, and it was so bad. I mean, no wonder like he's and I know he's run into some tough times and a lot of flack. Childhood actors or child actors tend to have that happen to them, and I feel bad for that. But from an entertainment aspect of it, holy shit, I want my life back because he sucked the life out of me. Because I was trying to project just a little bit of personality into him and some acting skills into him, and it just didn't happen. I just felt so drained.
You know his last movie before episode 1?
Was that is that the Arnold Schwarzenegger movie? Like
It was. It
Jingle All
was
the Way?
much loved like undercover great Christmas movie, Jingle All the Way. So his acting tutelage was a little off prior to this.
But it wasn't even that bad in Jingle All the Way.
He wasn't bad at Jingle. So I think that we all agree that George Lucas is a pretty shitty director.
Yes, very much so.
Just from a perspective of the performances that he gets, he's not like amazing. His great movies, and
they're not based on acting, that's for sure.
Well, no. His great movies, the great performances in his films are a result of the actors being great, not the direction being great.
Of course.
I 100%. That's not George's talent. George talks like this, he strokes the neck beard and he talks a little bit. He's very George. I like George Lucas, so you're not going to beat me up on that. But I mean, if you look at some of his movies, Star Wars or like American Graffiti was great because it had amazing actors in it. The first few Star Wars movies, you had Harrison Ford, who's like the leading man of the 90s. Get off my plane and all. Like, Carrie Fisher is brilliant. Mark Hamill somehow found lightning in 3 bottles, and that was it.
Wait. So
I know Mark Hamill, terrible actor. I agree. Great as the Joker. Great as the Joker, and great as Luke Skywalker. Because, I mean,
except for The Last Jedi.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Great in the 70s and 80s. Much better than Hayden Christensen in the early 2000s. But we'll get to that later.
Yes, we will. Maybe sooner than later. Who knows?
It's a possibility.
All right, so your next.
My number 10 is a movie that I don't hate because I love bad movies. But when ranking the Star Wars movies, it just comes up a little short. And that's Solo. Solo is my number 10. Love the backstory.
Hold on a second. So for everyone else, we have had conversations about this where you defend Solo to the death, and I am just like complete opposite of that. So, but go ahead, go ahead.
I like the movie. Like I enjoy it, but I enjoy all the Star Wars movies. So I'm kind of a biased critic in that regard. But the casting of Solo, the actor, he's a good actor. He did what he could, but you're replacing Harrison Ford with that guy, and you're it just every other actor in the movie is so strong that I like the movie. I love Childish Gambino in this movie. Love, love. I thought Khaleesi did a great job. I even enjoyed Woody Harrelson.
Woody
Um,
Harrelson's great in everything,
yeah,
for
he
the
is. He
record.
is. There's nothing bad there. There's nothing bad. All of the supporting actors, even John Favreau's voice, um,
Yeah.
were amazing in this movie. But when your lead disappoints, um, it, he felt less Han Solo, more Rodney Ruxin to me. And if you've watched The League, you understand what I'm saying. He just was too like not. It didn't play for me. I disliked the creature shop of villains that they had in there for whatever reason, like the weird, like in the weird slug person. Like just get a handful of salt, it's fine. Just get some salt. um you know, the other dude that was all up in his stuff, the infant's nest thing was kind of weird to me. um I mean, it fits in, wherever. I loved seeing the Kessel Run, loved the seeing the spice mines, but it was just kind of a stretch, and the Kessel Run to me was a little like, but
Underwhelming.
well, no, it was like Star Trek did this. Why are you doing it?
All right, so I
It's
got to
it's a
pause.
nebula. Why are we? What are we? What? Come on, turn the deflector shields around. We're gonna be okay. Eject the fucking warp core. And the weird robot, like, like I loved her as a robot, and there was absolutely no reason that you couldn't plug a fucking battery in or plug her into the. You did no, no. That's not how computers work. They don't lose their personality when you shut them off. Ask R2D2. Ask C3PO. It was just totally weird. And like the fact that you made it such a big deal to Lando that it had an attitude, and it was never mentioned anywhere else. Like it was sweet, but it was like you're stretching. You're stretching. Like force projection in The Last Jedi, like, you see me? See me? Okay, cool. It just made no sense. The other thing about that scene in Last Jedi that made no sense is I'm gonna project myself, but use the old lightsaber, not my current lightsaber. Like all of it made no sense to me. His Al Borland beard, like all of it was just really bugging me. But Solo bugged me mostly because of the piece of it, and it's a broken movie. It's a broken movie because the initial movie was written and started to be directed by Lord and Miller, who are behind like the Lego movie. They're great. Love me some Lord and Miller. They had some disagreements with Kathleen Kennedy, um, who I like almost as much as I like Bob Chapek. Um, that's a Disney joke. So then Ron Howard took it over, and I love Ron Howard as a director. Love, love, love,
When was
love,
the
love, love.
last good movie that he did though? Like
Ron
the
Howard did.
last, yeah. There's you can't say it off the top of your head. That's the point.
Well,
Has he done good movies? Yes.
I like all the Da Vinci Code movies, so I'm not the right person to ask that. But I mean, Ron Howard has put out some really amazing films.
Nothing amazing since the 90s. So there's a long stretch. He
Disagree.
he had worked, not saying he hasn't worked and he hasn't put out solid work, but in terms of like overall, like if you're going to get someone to take over a movie, I don't think Ron Howard was the best possible choice. But to kind of piggyback off of like the whole casting, which kind of drives me nuts because I swear to God that you and I have had this conversation before that I had said that I hated the casting for Han Solo, and you were like, he was okay, he did with it what he could. And I was like adamant, like, no, that is not Han. He has not gotten the character down. He has not gotten the personality down. And all of a sudden, he turns into this almost overnight. We're supposed to believe that almost overnight he becomes this jaded, cynical space pirate.
Yeah, like 5 minutes later.
Literally,
Five
because
minutes
he's
later.
going at the end of that movie, he is going to go see Jabba. And so I don't know how long or how many jobs he did for him, but it certainly wasn't like a long amount of time. I'll even give it like a couple years, maybe. I don't know if there's an official timestamp on that as to when that was, but um, yeah, I just there was so much there was fan service in there that didn't really pay off. You know, like the whole Chewie, like how they were tagging, or while he was tagging along. I know you're aware from like the books and everything. There was the life. Was it the life debt? Is that or whatever
Mhm.
they?
Yeah, and they never talked about it, but you can't talk about slavery. That's why they would. That's why it's a fire spray, not a slave one. For those of you that are upset about Lego sets and the Book of Boba Fett, which we're not talking about at all here.
We're not going to talk about that
But
today.
yeah, I agreed. Like they twisted up some things, and there wasn't really a reason to twist up some things. And I think it was more in the idea of trying to do some fan service, but really kind of meh. Like I loved the Kessel thing. I loved the rebellion of the droids. Like all that stuff worked for me, but it was some of the fan service that didn't land, which is why it landed at number 10 for me.
Before we move on though, because Solo was actually my number 9.
Hmm.
So might as well talk a little bit more about it. But I talked a little bit about it on Empire when we were talking about Empire. But dude, Lando had sex with the internet essentially.
You
So
don't know that he banged it. He just flirted with it a lot.
she alluded to it. So I will take her allusion to to Lando doing whatever with some WD-40.
Listen, man, Childish Gambino is an artist. You cannot judge Childish Gambino. I mean, look at all the crazy shit Kanye's done. Leave Lando alone.
I can't because it's so ridiculous. Like why you would even put that into the movie. I just don't understand it. Like I understand the humor. I'm not an idiot, but at the same time, like there's so many things that just don't add up. Which then like all right, so if he nailed the droid, he definitely was tagging Lobot and every other like scum that was hanging out with him over in Cloud City.
Thought he was a big he had an Ugnaught fetish too. Is that
He
what you're
just
gonna tell
had
me next?
he did not discriminate. He just went after everything. Lobot became
He did like try and make a move on Leia.
yeah.
Hello, what have we here?
Jeez, man, no shame in that guy. But
I mean, he's
uh,
Billy D. Don't fuck with Billy D.
no.
So my number 10 is another sequel.
No, your number 10 was Solo.
Or no, my number 9. 9
Yeah.
is a niner because we just talked about your 9. So we've
Yes.
done both 11s, we've done both 10s, and now we're on your 9 and now my 9.
That's usually how numbers work, Mark.
I
Yes.
was making sure. I did not go to school for numbers. In case anybody was wondering about my education. My number 9 is The Rise of Skywalker.
Okay. All right. So let me piggyback as well too, because I think we're in line for a lot of these movies because
Oh, eventually not. Eventually
sure,
not.
I'm sure. But my next one was going to be Rise of Skywalker. So your number 9, my number 8.
Oh, let's tag team.
Rise of Skywalker. Yeah, let's
Back again.
let's talk about the goods. Let's switch it up. Let's talk about the good stuff first. Yeah, I mean, there's some cool stuff.
They got Luke's X-wing out of the thing, which would have been
I
really
will
cool to see him do. because he couldn't do it in Empire. But if Luke wasn't dead, or even his Force Ghost, which apparently could do things, could you just see him pick it up out of the? Oh, talk about amazing fan service, of which there was jack shit of fan service in this movie. They put Yoda in it for a minute, I think. Or was that The Last Jedi? No, that was The Last Jedi.
Yeah.
Where it was the Jedi texts were burning and whiny Luke was upset. Yeah, yes. No Yoda in this movie. Yeah, no, my number 11 had Yoda in it. It was that bad. But this movie, I can't think of that many great parts. There were lightsabers in it.
Adam Driver, when he does the whole Han Solo, the shrug before he shreds up the Imperial Guard.
Oh, when he's like, yeah.
Yeah.
And so Adam Driver is the best actor in all of the sequel movies. His ability to act with the mask on is amazing. The emotion he puts into it, the workouts he did to get that chiseled chest, all of that is a service to the films. And Adam Driver, Oscar winner Adam Driver, is the best actor in these movies by far, hands down. But I just can't with we killed the mask. No, I want the mask back. Mask is back. I got the mask again. And just the weird random powers that were nowhere in books, comics, or history that just decided to randomly happen in these movies are ridiculous. The force projection thing, which now Leia can do. Leia can do force projection. And it turns out Leia had a really cool lightsaber. Man, I really want to sell something at Galaxy's Edge. What should it be? Oh, Leia's lightsaber. It's really fancy in rose gold because rose gold was a color in a galaxy far, far away a long time ago. It was a thing. Still, it matched your iPhone. But you got Jedi Leia and then not Jedi Leia, which explains flying Leia, which we didn't even talk about from The Last Jedi, which was so bad. I kind of didn't want
to talk about that one. It was just so bad.
You mean Leia Poppins? But and then like I love Ian McDiarmid. Don't get me wrong, but what the fuck? Can we get a new villain? What in the actual fuck is the Emperor doing in this movie? He's like the Emperor Doc Ock, but with one like tentacle up his ass.
So one of the reasons why I sort of like the movie is just because there was a little bit of that familiarity with the Emperor. Now, do I think it was absolutely ridiculous that he had an entire army? For sure. I thought it was ridiculous that they cloned him multiple times. I thought it was ridiculous that Snoke is just whatever. And this is the stupid fan service things because you know what I was really bummed about? I had heard that Wedge from the original trilogy was going to be in this, and he was in it for like 2 seconds. And I was so bummed about that because I thought he would have had a bigger part because obviously he's one of the many people that are going to come and help support the rebellion. And
he didn't even fly anything. He was a gunner on the Falcon. It was great.
I just don't get it, man.
A fun fact about the actor who played Wedge Antilles. Do you know whose uncle he is?
I do. Ewan McGregor.
He is Ewan McGregor's uncle, who told Ewan McGregor, you don't need to get involved in those movies. Almost cost us our Obi-Wan.
That is crazy. But Wedge was one of my favorites from the original trilogy. And God, man, he was so cool. He was what Poe Dameron was, to the original.
If you read the Rogue Squadron books, I 100% agree.
I had heard about that. I never read them. Oh. I can't read. So
or played the N64 video game, which was super underrated.
Was he in that?
Yeah, he was Rogue One.
I totally would have played that if number one, if I had an N64, but also if I would have known he was in it.
But yeah, I agree. I did like all of the fan service of all the ships was great. The fact that they brought like Home One out and that they had a few things, it was nice. Like, don't get me wrong, but it was too much fan service, not enough anything else at all. Like nothing. They tried to do backstory on characters that I don't care about. like
Yeah,
Poe. Oh, look, Poe used to be a bad guy. I don't give a fuck.
I
So
love
did
me some
Han.
Carrie Russell though. That
But
she's
but
super
she
cool.
was she what? No point. No point. You give her a badass costume and no point. Like useless.
Yeah, isn't that like a lot of the star in the new trilogy? Like, isn't that a
Yeah.
lot of it though? There's so many celebrity, cameos. Daniel Craig was in it.
Mhm.
Simon Pegg. And like, there's really no reason you could have gotten any fucking voice actor for it, but
But I
we
mean,
got
you
those.
can get those people, and it's a cool story, but that doesn't distract from the plot and put a character in that has no point in being there, except to introduce us to Babu Frek.
Yeah.
Are you kidding me? And hang on a second. A droid hand built by the Dark Lord of the Sith can't read the Sith language? Come on.
I mean, I'm willing to look past it, but
No, no. If you can't look past the bad acting in by Jake Lloyd, you can't look past the little gerbil that could.
Jake Lloyd is well, we might have to talk about who the worst actor out of all of them is, and I think Jake Lloyd is at the top of the list. But sorry, Jake Lloyd, if you're watching, and I know you are.
We're proud of you for being in recovery and sticking to that plan, Jake.
You were the bomb and Jingle All the Way, though.
Yes, Turbo Man.
All right, so I don't really have much else to say about Rise of Skywalker. I think it was just a disappointing ending to the Skywalker saga.
It was the one that I didn't go to see more than once in the theater.
I've rewatched it once since the theater when it came to Disney Plus, but even then I took like
It was the
popcorn breaks.
pandemic. I watched it a lot. I watched all of them a lot. It was just like, you need the things that make you happy. So you watched a lot of Marvel movies. I watched a lot of Star Wars movies.
Yeah, yeah. I also watched Turner and Hooch, the TV
Oh,
show, the new TV show.
without Tom Hanks, it's
It
like,
was
why?
actually kind of funny, but
Mm,
it's
mm.
it's ridiculous. There's a lot of references to like other movies and stuff, but check it out if you're really bored. All right, so you got Rise of Skywalker. I had Rise of Skywalker. Why don't you go on to your next
My
on the
number
list?
8 was Attack of the Clones. It's a prequel. It's a prequel. And the reason that it is this low in my rankings, it had a great battle at the end with Django getting his head cut off and Samuel L. Jackson's purple lightsaber just hacking shit up. Like, that was awesome. The end was good-ish. And the thing that one of the first times in a theater or one of the first like handful of times in a theater with a bunch of other nerdy fans where the room lit up was Yoda busting that lightsaber and doing flippy spinnies all over the place.
That was
Um,
really
it was
badass.
really badass. It's really badass. But the first, like the first like 4/5 of the movie were terrible. Just,
So the
just,
movie was terrible. You're
just
saying?
like, can you find two people that have less chemistry than Jake Lloyd had more chemistry with Natalie Portman
No, well, come
than
on,
Hayden Christensen.
come.
And I'm so excited to see him back in some stuff. Like, I am. I like Hayden Christensen as, I thought he was a good actor.
I
But
thought he was fine.
yeah, but some I'd hate to upset a senator. Durr. Look, I'm gonna roll on this cushball cow. Buh.
So that's not is it the actor's fault or is it the director and the writer? The fact that they gave them both accents is kind of strange. Like the whole Anakin wasn't born of royalty, so I don't know why the hell they gave him an accent all of a sudden.
He didn't have an accent.
He absolutely had maybe not an accent, but a certain type of dialect that was more like royal.
No,
It
that
just
was
didn't make
just
sense.
that was just Hayden Christensen's voice and his inability to enunciate properly.
Ah, man. I think he gets a bad rap, Are there some points where like he's acting badly? Sure.
In this movie, there are.
Oh,
In this
absolutely,
movie,
yeah.
there are. Revenge of the Sith, I thought he did a great job. This movie, especially at the beginning where he's trying to be angsty Anakin, it really it killed it for me. I liked the animated Anakin in Clone Wars better than Attack of the Clones Anakin in real life. Yeah, that I mean, I don't hate the prequels. This is just my least favorite prequel movie. Since we're on, number 8, yeah, you can tell I like most of the prequels more than the sequel movies because I've burned 2 sequels already.
Well, so actually mine before that, because so Force Awakens was mine, and then Attack of the Clones was my next one up. So yes, I did think The Force Awakens was a lesser movie than Attack of the Clones. Not by much, I don't think, because I thought The Force Awakens had some really great fan service. I thought there was some really cool cameos. Um, the how can you not love a movie with Chewie and Han? I thought it was a very good movie. It got me jazzed for the next trilogy. But what I think it fell short of is some things, just like what The Last Jedi did. Uh, this movie did for me is Finn picking up a lightsaber. I get it; it's a weapon; anyone can pick it up. But I just thought that, like, out of the only people that were holding those things, with the exception of General Grievous, were Jedi's or Sith Lords. And Grievous was not a Sith Lord or anything related to that, correct?
I it talks about some things with him trying to be, and like
How can
there's
how
some
can a droid? I mean, that's what he like.
well, he wasn't a droid. He was a person who was badly damaged and ended up in like an exoskeleton. He
That's so
was he
fucking
was a
crazy.
he was
He
in
had a heart
he was a
and
cyborg.
some lungs, right? I
Yeah.
think that's the only human part that he had.
There's a book or a storyline that talks about his obsession with making himself better. So he kept replacing himself or parts of himself with things, and eventually he just kind of replaced all of himself with a
And it,
6-limbed fancy beetle
and
bot.
he still had asthma to beat it all. Like that's
Well,
just so poor.
yeah.
But anyways, I'm sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself on that. But so Force Awakens, I just was not a huge fan of Finn with the lightsaber, Ray knowing, you know, having force abilities like that, just like, oh, okay, cool, I can do this stuff. That just kind of really irked me, because there was some struggle for Luke. Luke had a struggle. He didn't just all of a sudden become a Jedi and with
Hmm.
such ease, right? And offing Han the way that they did was a big problem for me because I just felt that there's self-sacrifice, and then there's I messed up. I trusted my evil son, so I got a laser sword put through my chest.
I mean, if there's one way to make people hate a character, it's have them kill Han Solo. Right. So I
Yeah.
mean, there's win there. So I'm gonna take the cat out of the bag. We had these flip flopped where you had clones at 7 and TFA at 8. I have TFA at 7 and clones at 8. So I'm down to
Okay.
clown on this conversation too. The reason I had Force Awakens above clones is everything that was in the trailer. Right. Chewie, we're home. With that piece of junk over there. Oh, it's the Falcon. Oh, it's Luke's lightsaber for some reason that's in a box in somebody's house or in their bar. What? Right. And the
Yeah.
fact that you got 2 of the 3 main characters on screen at the same time, like you got a lot of things, but it didn't add up to great. Like that might have been big ups, God rest her soul, right? Carrie Fisher's worst performance ever because she was just hungry because they made her lose a bunch of weight and she just was in a bad way, right? But when she talked about all the lines she delivered were not her best work, right? And I love Carrie Fisher deeply. Um, I think that there's the only one that was up to their old chops was Harrison Ford, which we didn't talk about how he was magically in the Rise of Skywalker, and I'm just going to leave it there because again there were all these powers.
So okay, so do you want to retro a little bit about that? Like,
Let me retcon two things. One, I get it, Leia projected him, whatever, but the whole force healing thing also bullshit. No, if Yoda couldn't fucking do it, it's bullshit. Stop. No, back to TFA
one
and
could argue
clones.
that perhaps it was the dark side, being in touch with the dark side of the force is what could have done that.
Because she shot force lightning, zap.
I mean, hey, and here's the thing, I don't disagree with you, but at the same time, thinking of it from, after just watching the prequels fresh, Anakin wanted to be, he wanted to have all knowledge of the Force, not just the good side, the Jedi side. So maybe because she was a Palpatine, maybe she was able to kind of have a little bit of that. Maybe that's the
They
whole
wrote
reason
it.
why.
They wrote it in her clone DNA, right? That's what happened. No, no, no. Um. So back to the clones movie, Attack of the Clones. I loved the Boba Fett part and the Jango Fett and the fact that you got the slave one. You got that service. You got a good battle. You didn't even get a good battle in The Force Awakens.
No, no, you
Like it
didn't.
was a bunch of people that were. You know what
So
you got? You got Chewie missing a shot, and then Kylo Ren like bleeding out and having a fight. You didn't even get a good lightsaber battle. All the prequels had good lightsaber battles, but The Force
yeah,
Awakens to me was something that was hungered for like 10 years later, and there was good fan service in it. You got some really good parts of it, but again, you had these pieces and they were too worried. That movie to me was about fan service and being too worried about introducing new characters than letting it happen naturally, right? They were too worried that all the other guys, they're all old. We can't. Oh, Harrison Ford's ankles are really fragile. He
that
broke
man
broke.
is fragile.
Dude, he's like 80 something now. So leave
He's
him
old,
alone.
man.
Didn't he drink from the cup? He's supposed to live forever.
Yeah, but apparently that cup isn't
Mm,
working, especially in Indiana
no,
Jones land, because he just got injured
no.
on, or well, not just injured, but
Yeah, he
he
got
got
hurt
injured
doing
on
that
that
too.
movie set.
But I think Force Awakens was nice fan service, but not yeah.
Phil, what's your bright spot about that movie?
I remember the sound in the theater when they showed the Falcon for the first time. I remember the tingly feeling when Han and Chewie got back on the Falcon. Right. I remember seeing Luke and getting his lightsaber handed to him and the look on his face until it was ruined in The Last Jedi.
Yeah, that was an awesome ending to the movie. That really was.
They set Ryan Johnson up for success and he decided I'm going to take his shit in the camera and see what happens.
Yeah.
But I liked the movie. I thought that in this version of the prequels or the sequels, I thought some of the characters they added were interesting. Maz Kanata, interesting character.
Yeah.
You got the cantina scene again, just at Maz's castle. You know, the reason that they had to change the stormtrooper outfits was weird to me, but I thought that the new helmet looked pretty slick, right? Not Kylo's helmet, the stormtrooper helmet.
Yeah.
Um, I didn't mind a lot of it, but you know, it's worst scene in the movie, worst piece of dialogue in Star Wars. I have a red arm.
I thought it was hilarious that he brought that up because C3PO is like, he's the type of person to bring up stupid shit like that. So I was actually okay with it. But like, there's never an explanation, just like there was no explanation in, the original trilogy as to why he had a discolored leg. It's just funny that I thought it was a cool little callback and like another another feather in C-3PO's cap that's like, hey, we don't care, man. Like whatever type of adventure or whatever type of stupid shit you got into. So you got a red arm, whatever.
Oh, when they used the hatch in the Falcon to hide, and then when she was looking for stuff, and Finn pulls up the remote, the training remote in there, like those little pieces of visual fan service did it for me. But
Okay.
the storyline was not nearly as impactful as other movies. As
I
for
mean, it
me,
was
6 other movies.
yeah, it was New Hope 2.0, really, because it was a retread. It was a retread of that with a
But
few
all
unrealistic
of them were
things.
kind of a retread with fan service. The Phantom
Yeah,
Menace was a retread with fan service.
I don't know what service of fans you were talking about on that movie, but ugh, sorry, still got a bad taste in my mouth from that. Just watched it last night. Oh man, Attack of the Clones. I completely 100% agree with you. The freaking lightsaber battles were awesome, but even then, that last battle was like, yep, we could have cut that by a few minutes. Yoda, high spot to that. I thought the banter back and forth between Obi-Wan and Anakin was really good. Um, I liked it. I liked it. I liked the fact, but once again, it really painted the Jedi Council as a bunch of old old men, or you compare that to a society of old white men that are just trying to hold power. That this is the way, and this is the way that it
Oh,
goes.
wait,
This
wait,
is the
wait. Hang
rules.
on, hang on, hang on. Do not sully "This is the way" by giving it to the Jedi Council.
Yeah, they don't have "this is the way" trademarked. Sure, it's a cool phrase. I like it, but yeah.
Mm.
But yeah, man, the Jedi Council, like, or they really look like shit through the prequels, and it's one of those things where it's like Luke was right in the sequels trilogy. That he was completely right that the Jedi's were just so high and mighty on themselves, and they were wrong.
I agree. I agree wholeheartedly. I thought that it showed a lot of bureaucratic problems. It had what was the most egregious sin of Jar Jar Binks, in that Jar Jar is the reason that Palpatine gained power. The biggest idiot in the galaxy somehow got a vote in the Senate. It showed the flaw of the democratic process, that idiots can be elected, and I find that very apropos in today's society. But I think that uh, it just it also really tried to be The Empire Strikes Back and end on a sad note.
Yes,
Like, oh, Anakin got his hand cut off. Well, yeah, you knew it was gonna happen. They got to cut off an arm in every Star Wars movie.
it was such a weird ass ending too.
But he
Like,
got the girl, so it's not really sad because he got the girl, and Yoda had a lightsaber, so I'm not sad. Like,
yeah,
they tried to just jam a bunch into it. Hey, I want to see Sam Jackson be a bad motherfucker with this lightsaber, and he was. Right. It just was a little much for me. But it did spawn one of my favorite Star Wars properties, which is the Clone Wars TV series, where they go into all of the depth on the clones and all that stuff. And I was a big fan of that. But it spawned something good, but in general, it was garbage.
yeah.
Not
That
not one that I've rewatched a bunch.
that ending was just like, okay, it's gonna keep on going. It's gonna keep on going. And then there's a secret wedding. Who gives a shit? All my wife, she caught the end. Yeah, the ending of that, and she's like, so is that the same kid in the first one? It's like, well, it's the same character, but it's not the same actor. And she's like, so Padme's a pedophile? Like, that's all she could think about is just like the difference in age right there. And so it's just kind of funny that that's the case. But hey, it's part of the movie. But I never understood why they couldn't have just introduced Anakin at that age, as opposed like have him be a slave in his teens, and then introduce him that way, and then
George wanted all the kids to be able to see themselves in Anakin.
so they wanted a slave that built shit and would fuck shit up and was gonna like
Yeah, no, mass appeal. Mass
yeah.
appeal.
Uh,
You want to go to number 6?
yeah, let's well your numbers you had it flip flopped, right? Because your number 6
Yeah.
was
My
Force
number
Awakens.
No, my number 7 was Force Awakens.
Okay.
My number
yeah, go
8
to your
was
6.
Yeah, my 6 is one of your favorite movies, and it's The Phantom Menace. And I
How is it that
specifically
high?
so
How is it that
so
high?
hang on. The first movie in both the prequels and the sequels are back to back in mine. I'm going to tell you why. Because they are the purest form of fan service of most of these movies, except for 5 for me, which we'll talk about after 6. So the Phantom Menace gave you so much what I consider to be cool shit. First battle, you got to see Jedis doing badass Jedi shit.
With
I'm gonna
bad
bust
hair.
out my leg. Nobody
Badass
said
shit
they had
with
good
bad
hair. Nobody said they had good hair. I don't know why he had to have long hair. I
No,
don't
no, no, no.
understand
It's
it.
not even that.
The
Just
hair thing was off to me. I get it.
bad hair and makeup. Sorry.
I'm
Just
okay
had
with
to
that.
throw it in.
And you know what else they did? They put a fucking lightsaber through a blast door and fucking were melting that shit down. Bad fucking ass.
Yeah.
All the blocking and just all the shit you want to see. All the shit you want to see. They can do like super jumps from the force, and you're like, oh, I would totally do that with the force. I just push myself a little bit more. That's cool. And I dig the banter. Part of the charm of the original movies was the banter and kind of the campy jokes. I love the dry personality of Obi-Wan. I love me a good hello there.
Did you feel like it
Sprinkled in.
wasn't consistent with the character though? With the other movies?
Well,
The
you
original.
you didn't really see a lot of Obi-Wan in the originals, right? He was kind of a beaten down old guy who
Mhm.
was kind of sad. He lost his best friend. This was before that. This is when he was in his early 20s and kind of dopey, and this is happy-go-lucky Obi-Wan. Happy one, right? So he's not even like his own Jedi person. He's still a Padawan. So he's like, he's how old are you when you're apprentice? You're like, 15 to 22, when you're just like, hey, whatever, right? I can't drink Jedi beer, but I can make bad jokes, right? But you got to see that. You got to see like all of the droids at mass, which I thought was awesome because it was one of the first movies where the digital effects were really impactful, right? They didn't do much practically in that movie. It was all digital effects, which was awesome to me, right? But you still got the feel of Star Wars again after a long, long layover, which was great. The soundtrack to that, I mean, Duel
It
of
was good.
Fates, Duel of Fates puts it in the almost in the top 5 for me in general. That movie for me, and I used to describe it like this when I was younger, right? You came for the Star Wars, you stayed for the lightsaber fight. Who knew you could have a double-sided lightsaber? Nobody knew, but that was pretty badass.
I was disappointed that he didn't last longer. Like
He
he
did
got
if
cut
you
in
watch the
half.
Clone Wars.
I know. But the fact that you had like a really cool looking evil villain
Mm-hmm.
and he was very proficient, kicking the shit out of Qui-Gon and
Oh,
Obi-Wan.
but Qui-Gon was like the dirty hippie of Jedis. I mean, come on.
My issue with that fight is Qui-Gon's demise was just like it just happened. Like it wasn't even a setup of like Obi-Wan, like he puts his lightsaber up, he lets Darth Vader strike him.
He didn't mean to get killed. He
Obviously,
wasn't
yeah, no one means to
like
get killed.
right. But like Obi-Wan getting killed by Vader, like he meant to die.
Yeah,
Like
but they could have set that up better thematically, cinematically, and from a climactic point of view. if someone's going to die, even if it's like by surprise, there's something that will set that up. Whether it's like him noticing his stance, him, like if he's
Well,
cut,
the
he's
reason
limping.
they separated him.
Yes,
When they
but
separated him, he
that's
didn't have the backup. Like the guy had 2 blades to 1. Come on, that's just bad odds.
yeah.
And don't ever tell me the odds. But in general, it's bad odds, 2 blades against 1. But in general, like the fight kicking on with Duel of the Fates, the doors
It was
open, and it's
cool.
just so great. And you couldn't kill him, like he couldn't disappear because they had to have the "I'm dying, you got to train the boy" fight or
Right.
conversation, right? He had to weep a little bit.
So I don't know if you noticed too, and you probably did. You're very observant, but like when they're the red force fields are up and they're caught in the little sections, and Qui-Gon's doing his meditating, and Maul is such a freaking monster that he's just pacing back and forth like a freaking pit bull
Mm-hmm.
ready to just like pounce on me. He's like he's
He's
ready to
hitting the
go.
force field with his lightsaber, trying to break it, just
Oh
tapping it,
man,
just fuck with him. Oh,
so
it's so
cool.
good.
And it's very telling of him and his a character. It's just like there's you got Qui-Gon meditating, and then literally on the other side there's just this pit bull just grazing across the fence like I'm gonna freaking maul you, no pun intended, right after this thing comes up. And yeah, that was really cool. But once again, that that death, that ending, like I mean, go back through any of character deaths, it's built up better. Even the surprise deaths are built up, but like it's one of those things where it's like you can tell a bad death of a character when it just comes out of nowhere because
Oh,
there's no
like
dramatic
Hobby,
thing. Like who?
like Hobby, or your
Um,
boy, Dak,
Dak.
Dak,
Dak.
your boy. Zip.
Oh man.
Mm. We'll get to
Jeez.
that. We'll get to
Yeah.
that. Or
Yeah.
we talked enough about it before, but I agree with you. Like the you didn't expect the character to die. It wasn't Sean Bean, so you expected him to kind of live on a little bit, but it set it up in a way. And again, those are nitpicky. In the end, it was really cool, and it
Why
introduced you to so many things. The fan service of this movie, right? You love and the reason I ranked it above TFA. Um, I had this conversation with my wife when I was prepping for this. I'm like, Phantom Menace better than TFA. She was like, what? I'm like, the fan service was better. She was like, how so? And I'm like, you got the origins of the most popular characters in Star Wars, R2 and 3PO.
which weren't very good, by the way. They were not very good. So just because you get an origin doesn't mean
So
it's
the fact
good.
so the fact that one, Anakin built 3PO, what? That's awesome. And two, that really the droid that saved Princess Leia was her mom's droid and it saved her mom too. Come on.
I guess. I don't know.
And the droid that saved Luke and fixed the stabilizers in the Death Star trench was his mom's droid. The one that went to Dagobah with him was his mom's droid. The one that saw Grogu in The Mandalorian and knew, you're like, R2 knows him because he was in the Jedi Temple.
Okay, I'll give you that. But at the time, it was basically like shoehorn, do your work. Here's the droids.
I think that Lucas introduced a bunch of new characters while still giving you some reference to some classic characters and let the balance be much better than TFA was. And the sequels in general. There are no more sequel movies on my list.
Disagree on that, but hey, I like I said, I enjoyed The Force Awakens. I thought Phantom Menace was okay, but anyways, yeah.
Please continue. What was your 6?
6 was Attack of the Clones, so that's why I talked a little bit about it with
Okay.
your 7. So going on to number 5, right?
Yeah, let's go.
All right, so number 5, Revenge of the Sith.
Go.
Revenge of the Sith, probably well, obviously it's the favorite of the prequels, but I thought the story moved a whole lot better. I thought it was rewatching it. This is the one that I rewatched most recently. It is like nonstop. The action, you go right into it, and it really doesn't stop. Like whether it's Anakin or whether it's Obi-Wan, like one of them are going on a mission or they're in a fight or something. And I like that from an overall perspective, and it's pretty sweet to have, not just the action, but also the back and forth between him and Anakin, which the acting did get better in Revenge of the Sith for Hayden Christensen. I didn't have a huge problem with his acting per se, but I understand why people did. But the struggle between him and Padme, dude, he is just one angry, angry kid, and that's where it's like, okay, cool. Like, I get it why, he's going to become Darth Vader. I did not understand the fact that you had General Grievous in there. Like I said, I'm not a huge, books,
Mhm.
cartoons, whatever type of guy on it. I'm the casual, above average casual fan for Star Wars, but I didn't like the fact that he was wielding lightsabers. So Grievous had, I mean, he had four of them too. So I wasn't a big fan of that. Just like how I wasn't a big fan of Finn holding a lightsaber. If you're not a Jedi or a Sith Lord, sorry, this weapon's not for you. Just my opinion.
Unless you're cutting open a tauntaun.
There, yes, true, very true, very true. I forgot about Han
Tauntaun
doing that.
butchers are allowed.
Yeah, it was to save the life of a Jedi, or a potential Jedi, I should say. Um, but yeah, man, like that was I thought it was a very good movie, best of the prequels. The scenery itself was really good too. Like when you get to Mustafar, this is where it's going to go down. You're on a fucking volcano planet, and that last battle with him and Anakin um, suffered from a little bit of pacing. It could have been cut back just a little bit, but hey, whatever. Um, you get those greats, you get the hello there's, you get the Anakin, I have the high grounds, and how many people have recreated that at like Comic Cons, things like that. It's awesome. It's very cool. Once again, the Jedi Council are a bunch of assholes and pricks, and they're in the wrong. And the fact that they could not see the Chancellor slash Emperor being one of the evil force or the dark side. How do you not see that? I don't understand. Like, you were practically having lunch with the guy. You didn't pick up on that. Your Yoda tingle didn't pick up on that at all. Like, come on.
The dragon clasp didn't give it away. I'm like, oh, don't go in that drawer. That's where I keep my emperor stuff.
Yeah. But I thought it was a lot more believable than, you know, Last Jedi and like the buildup of the story, because
Mhm.
it would have pretty much already been built up for the most part, but it was just at the climax. Like the third movie, in my opinion, was basically just one big climax. Probably a little bit unsatisfying at the end for some and a lot of people, but yeah.
The challenge for me, and the reason that I have a lot of, like, I understand on the prequels, is people knew what happened next. People went into it with, oh, I want to see Vader and Obi-Wan fight. This is going to be great. Like, that's what they were riding for. You knew it was coming. You knew. You knew it was coming 100%. So where do I get to see it? Let's go. And this is the movie where they gave it to you. Um, and I think that that's why the prequels I don't mind, because they did have to shoehorn things in, because you knew where it was starting and you knew where it was ending, and you had to like build a storyline to get there. So that's why prequels rank higher for me. But this one is my favorite of the prequels as well. But it's not my number five. My number five is Rogue One.
God damn it. Oh shit.
I
We're gonna have problems.
I really enjoy this movie.
Then it should not be number 5.
So based on what 1, 2, 3, and 4 are, it should be number 5. this might be the second most cinematically perfect movie in any of the Star Wars movies. This
And
is
it's
my
at number 5
wife's
for you.
this is my
You just
wife's number one.
just let's repeat what you just said. Say it
Cinematic
again, please.
perfection does not mean that it's the best Star Wars movie.
Okay. I don't disagree. I do not
Mm-hmm,
disagree.
mm-hmm.
But I disagree with it being that low at number 5.
So I mean, it's five for me, but it's the top five for me are like asking me to rank Star Wars movies, to be honest with you, is like asking you to rank your children. I love these movies.
No, dude, I've got a ranking for that for sure.
Oh, well, there you go. I do too. One of one. Yes. But yeah, no, I was this movie was well worth it for me. It introduced some really complex characters. It had fucking great actors throughout. I mean, it was the tits for me. Not a lot of complaints in this movie. And the end of the movie left you so insanely satisfied that I it's just that. It renewed your hope in Star Wars. It was that good.
Yeah.
So yeah, I can't. I got nothing bad to say about it. I thought it was really, really, really good. And my wife, who didn't grow up with the original trilogy, didn't watch Star Wars movies until we started dating. It was like a thing. Oh, I haven't seen any of the Star Wars movies, which people are really proud of. Sometimes I think they're stupid. But in general, like she loves this movie. Probably because the female protagonist comes out in a big bad way. There's a lot of positive there, but yeah, Rogue One is my 5.
Okay. Well, I won't because obviously that'll be coming up on my list shortly. But what's your number 4?
Your 5 was Return of the Sith, right?
No, yeah, Revenge of the Sith. Yeah.
Revenge of the Sith. Revenge of the Sith. That's not my number 4. My number 4 is A New Hope.
Wow, man.
My
Holy
number
shit.
my number 4 is A New Hope. And I've got reasons. It's basically because Luke is so inept in the movie. I mean, that's
Yeah.
really it. That's really it for me. But as an initial character, he's angsty, and you don't expect him to be angsty, I guess, because he's so good at the end, and it doesn't ride well with me that he's so angsty. He's very Anakin-y at the beginning, and it's like, wait, no,
Dude, he's his freaking son. Okay. So
that he's never met.
it
Like,
doesn't. Okay, so it doesn't mean he can't have his father's tendencies.
Dickheadedness is not genetic.
I disagree.
No, that's
disagree,
nurture versus nature there, sir.
I don't know.
That's nurture versus nature. But in general, right? Luke is whiny and it's iconic, but it's kind of slow. Just on the pace of the other films, it's slow. And there's just some parts of the plot in that movie that just are like so many great quotable lines, so much good stuff, so many amazing actors, amazing. Peter Cushing, um, uh, uh, why can't I remember his name?
Alec Guinness.
Alec Guinness. Why? I'm like, what is going
Sir
on?
Alec Guinness.
Lawrence of Arabia is in this movie. No, Sir Alec Guinness is amazing. All of these really high-end British actors that they added to it. Just such a fantastic movie. But for me, still number 4. I think there are 3 that did it better for me.
That's so strange. All right. I kind of have to hold back. But so I'm gonna go into my number 4, and that's Return of the Jedi. Yeah, I know you love yourself some Return of the Jedi. So we kind of talked about this on the previous one. where we talked about what was better, or why Return of the Jedi was better than Empire Strikes Back. So notice that I've not talked about Empire yet, but
I'm not judging. Again, when
Return
you
of the
get this high,
Return of the Jedi is my number 4. So that was it. If you would have asked me maybe 10 years ago, it would be higher. But going back to it recently, after from a movie appreciation point of view, as opposed to, oh, this is cool. You got like cute little teddy bears running around and some space stuff and lasers. Like I think my attempt at being mature of my cinematic explorations of stuff, um, it gets taken down a peg because it's not a very well put together movie. I understand your whole view of, you know, good triumphing evil and all the mental battle for the lightsabers thing, but it was an inferior battle. It was a retread of A New Hope with trying to blow up the Death Star. Same exact thing, just in a different part of the Death Star. The character chemistry between Leia and Han, and even Luke, kind of just awful. I think Carrie Fisher really phoned it in on this one. Now, keep in mind, I liked this movie, but that's the reasoning as to why it drops down so high. It goes down from that childhood nostalgia, like, oh man, I love this movie. I watch it all the time, or like there's no reason as to why I didn't like it when I was younger. But now, kind of looking at it from a more mature view, that's the reason why it's at number 4. I still highly enjoy it. I still love the fact that, Wedge, he has a little, some great hero moments in it as well, too. Lando comes back. The whole Jabba's palace thing was really cool. It's just like this nice little prisoner heist type of movie, or beginning to a movie. Yeah, I liked it. I really did enjoy it. I think me talking about the shortcomings of it was really necessary because I needed to justify as to why it dropped in my rankings. But I think the sheer nostalgia is the reason why it's so high above the others.
and I feel the same way about A New Hope. But again, I thought that there weren't as many fantastic things in A New Hope.
I'll go with Empire Strikes Back. Empire Strikes Back is my number 3. Everyone says it's the best Star Wars movie. The
We're gonna
reason
get
why it's
so much
not,
hate. I love
well,
it.
for Empire. Oh, for
In
your
general, yeah,
picks.
for both of our picks. I love it. I'm so excited.
Well, Empire is 3 because, like, so I really did not enjoy this movie when I was little. I would watch it on loop because when I was younger on Betamax, because like what else was I going to watch? There's nothing on regular TV. So pop in a movie, watch it, done. But the child in me at the time was like, I don't like how this movie has a bummer ending. But it really is a better put together movie than Jedi, and it is better put together than A New Hope. But the acting's better. The lightsaber battle for the time was better than the other 2 original trilogy movies, in my opinion. Like I said before, Mark Hamill also trained extensively for Empire. I don't believe he did for Return of the Jedi, but it was one of those things where he put in the work and it showed. If you watch it again, kind of watch it side by side, I understand and I appreciate the whole mental battle in Return of the Jedi, but the sheer fighting and choreography was better in Empire. I thought the introduction of the different types of landscapes, on Hoth, um, fantastic. Like a snow planet, that's really badass. And that snow planet battle, first time you get the chance to see, on the ground action in Star Wars. Besides, like people shooting each other in the Death Star, this is on a battlefield and it's looking pretty bleak for the rebellion. You know, they're getting their ass kicked. You got AT-ATs coming at you, and the snow speeders, and poor Dak. Oh, Dak,
The
and
snow,
and
the most useless vehicle in all of Star Wars.
and F you, Luke. You are responsible for Dak dying. Just remember that.
Just a Dak apologist over here.
Gosh, man, I just don't. He justice for Dak should be a new thing that should be trending after this. But yeah, man, that's it. That's my number 3.
Hashtag Danny loves Dak. Put that out there. Let's see
Either that or
trend.
I'm a Luke hater, closet Luke hater. I don't know.
Could be.
All right. So what do you got?
So 3 for me was Revenge of the Sith. To your point earlier, just hit after hit after hit after hit. The movie flowed. Best of any of the prequels because it knew where it was going and it wanted to get there. You got to see Order 66, which you heard about, but like you got to see just the full impact of it.
And then did you hear about Order 66 before in the other movies?
In the books and stuff, yeah.
Okay, all right. Because I was gonna say, like I said, average or above average Star Wars
for above average Star Wars fans, there was a movie that came out in 1983, and then a bunch of books that were put out there for years and years and years and years and years until 1999. So you're talking about like 15 years of books that were, awesome. There's some really good stuff out there. Hashtag Zahn trilogy, hashtag best trilogy. But in general, it hit, and it hit so much cool stuff. You got to see them. You got to see vintage Obi-Wan and Anakin, like the way that they buddy copped their way through the hijacking with the Chancellor and all that. And you got to see Anakin and his love for Obi-Wan, and then it just turned into why they were such bitter enemies at the end, right? And you got to really feel that throughout that film. You got to see Obi-Wan skepticism on some things. Obi-Wan start to feel a certain kind of way, and him have to look at the security tapes because he couldn't believe it was Anakin. And Yoda like, no, we're just fucked. The Yoda fight in the Senate with the spinny of the seats and it, like that was so cool with them just throwing shit at each other with the Force. It was definitely one of the coolest fights. I don't think there was one fight in that movie that I was like, oh, that was terrible. Yeah, no, there was so much good stuff in that movie. The only bad part of it was the just what?
No.
Yes, exactly. That you got the no at the end. But in general, the movie was just so tight for me. By far my favorite prequel. And I do love me some Phantom Menace more than most, but yeah, that's just a great movie.
So quick question for you on this, because I think it was in Attack of the Clones, but Dooku used Force lightning in that, right?
He used it in both of them.
Okay, so he used it in both. Here's my problem. Darth Vader, according to the Emperor, was going to be the most powerful and everything, and not once did he see him use Force lightning.
He didn't have fingers.
You could have forced it through your little arm nub. I don't care.
I'm gonna nub you. Elbow lightning.
Anything, it might have been like it would have been like Thor and Stormbreaker, where it's just freaking unparalleled. Like it's coming straight from the source as opposed to from the little channeled fingers. Like I thought it would have been way more, it would have fit better that he would have used Force lightning. Now, granted, we got to see some really cool scenes with him, but he's not the most powerful.
But he wasn't a sold out Sith, though. He still had good in him. So maybe Force lightning only comes to the super evil or Rey.
Yeah, that's what I was just about to bring up. But yeah, okay, just curious about that. That's one of the reasons why I don't always buy Darth Vader as like the baddest motherfucker in the galaxy, I should say.
No, he wasn't. He was constantly beat down by the Emperor and had to rebuild himself. And some of the Darth Vader comics are really, really good. Some of the more modern Marvel stuff It kind of weaves this tale of constant like oppression and like domestic violence between Emperor and Vader is pretty, not to condone domestic violence, but they like he would just beat up on Vader and to drive him deeper and deeper to the dark side to try and flush the good from him. And
Mm.
it was just like he was just beating him all the time.
I
So
think that makes
it was
sense. The
pretty.
way, yeah, just you explaining that, it makes sense that maybe he did it just be the Emperor knew that there was a little bit of good in him, and
Yeah,
that was wait, that was your number three?
that's my number three.
Go for two, man.
My number two is The Empire Strikes Back.
Okay. I
I
think
I I hate on it versus Jedi, but I mean it gave us Yoda. It gave us more understanding of the Force. It gave us the relationship building of Han and Leia. It gave us all the interior views of the Millennium Falcon we could possibly want.
dude, I thought
Um,
I was going to be the one hypocritical on this. Like, it seems like,
it's not Return of the Jedi though. Like that's the only problem I have with it is it's not Return of the Jedi. There's no resolution at the end, and you're left with sadness. And there's a little bit of incest in it. A little bit
so
of
don't you,
incest.
didn't you ever, and I actually ran into this on the prequels as well too. So like, cause there's some downer endings on some of the prequels. And then obviously with Empire, where it ends, it's on a somber note, then all of a sudden it hits into the adventurous Star
The
Wars
really
music.
peppy. Yeah. Yeah.
I never understood as to why they just didn't think like, yeah, maybe we should match up the music to the somber ending of this
Because
movie.
people love the music, Dan.
They do love the music, and it's going to probably transcend time. You'll continue to hear that whether Disney Hollywood Studios is up and running, which I hope it is because I'm a stockholder. But still, with Empire, like I said, I like it. I like it a whole lot more as an adult, with the themes and the acting appreciation, the the scenery and all the stuff that I said before. Still don't understand how you have that behind Jedi. My number two, and I keep on going back and forth on this one. This is where my hypocritical stage is going to go into full effect because I'm still having a debate on this. And I have to ask you a question. What do you consider a better movie? A movie that you think that you saw it and you were just like, oh my God, that was so damn good. And you rewatched it a few times. Okay. Or, oh man, yeah, I watched this movie all the time when I was younger. Like I seen it like at least 100 legitimate times. Which one is the better movie, in your opinion?
So that's a very pointed question because I watched a lot of movies as a kid that I won't watch anymore because they're bad.
But if you would continue to watch them, though, you know what I mean? Like you would still watch them.
I mean,
That's where I'm at with my
but
number one.
there's certain stuff from our childhood that held up,
Yeah.
and there's certain stuff that just didn't.
So I'm gonna go with nostalgia. Nostalgia will win on this one. I do not think it's the better cinematic movie, um, nor do I think it's the well. Anyways, number two is Rogue One. Rogue One is my number two. Such a good movie. K2SO, the best droid out of every single Star Wars movie, in my opinion. And yes, that's going against R2 and his long fucked up history, which doesn't make any sense, by the way. K2SO, Alan Tudyk, the voice actor for him, is just stellar in every single thing that he's in. I believe he was an iRobot as well too. He was the pirate in Dodgeball, but excellent voice actor and always spot on with just about everything that he does. The introduction of characters was done very well. Um, Someone who, like if they were known in other movies, it would be viewed as like forced in there. But because all these people are going to die anyways, I think it's okay. You get a ragtag bunch of people of, extremists and the rebellion. It's okay that you don't know everyone's backstory. And, it's like, it's a suicide mission. That's really what it was. And they did it so well to where it wasn't viewed as like this bleak ending to a movie, because they turn it right back around. Princess Leia has the plans, and she says, "This is hope," and then off into a new hope that she goes. Galen Erso, and he's a reluctant villain. He's a villain because he freaking built the Death Star, but he didn't want to destroy planets and kill people. So there's a deeper story there too. So
He
yeah,
built a
man,
fault into it. It was an exhaust port.
yeah, yeah.
No, I can't argue Rogue One. It's a great movie. Sometimes rankings are based on personal preference, and I get that. The only thing that bugged me about Rogue One, the only negative I have about it, is Forrest Whitaker's weird pet. Like,
I
like, mm, mm,
dude, I didn't have a problem with I just had a problem with Forrest Whitaker.
yeah, just in
So
general, right? If they
I
retcon, they fix that character in Clone Wars and give him a
oh, did they?
lot of, yeah, in the TV show, and gave him a lot of why, behind his creepy crazy. But in general, Forrest Whitaker played a character, which is more than you could say in Fast Times at Ridgemont High. So I again, you got marquee performances from marquee players that just Donnie Yen in that movie. Oh,
Yes.
so I'm one with the Force and the Force is with me. So
Very
good,
cool.
so good.
Very cool. And I thought that was like another really cool thing in terms of like overall diversity of people in the cast, which was really sweet. I think the closest thing to like an Asian person in Star Wars was whatever that alien was in the Phantom Menace, like where they were like doing a clear Asian accent, and even my wife was turned to look at me like, "What the hell is this shit?" And so like, hey man, I don't know. It's
Yeah,
the
there's
space
there's
galaxy.
definitely there's definitely some racist imagery in the Phantom Menace, like Watto. But we could talk about that. That we can, that's let's leave it there. It's for kids.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, but I think, yeah, Rogue One, no problems.
Okay. And obviously, your number one is Jedi.
Absolutely.
Okay, my number one is A New Hope. Um, go over like your spiel on Jedi, because I
Jedi
really
is,
disagree with this one.
yeah, no, Jedi is just the culmination of all of these things. The hero's journey continued. Good triumphs over evil. The galaxy takes a breath. The galaxy is relieved. You get all of the you get Luke try going home to Tatooine as a hero. I was born here. You're gonna die here. Nah, I'm good, right? Boba Fett's you get the Sarlacc thing, which is really kind of funny. He burps after he eats Boba Fett. Boba Fett's spicy. But you get to see Carrie Fisher be a badass and take out Jabba. You get to see Luke fight a Rancor with no lightsaber, right? You get to see him not as a farm boy staring down the barrel of a lightsaber, but as like a fully capable Jedi. And again, it does it for me. The battle at the end, the lightsaber battle with the music behind it, the Gregorian chants as they go back and forth up and down stairs across crosswalks with the Emperor cackling on in the background and the space battle going on behind him. It is not the best lightsaber battle in all of Star Wars. That has to go to the Phantom Menace for me. With Revenge of the Sith as a second. So it's third place in lightsaber battles for me. But it just did it for me. It just did it. It was the it was the Emperor trying to throw away Vader and take Luke. Luke realizes what's going on, and he's just like, no, no, I see. Luke learns to be more malevolent than the Jedi Council was in any prequel.
True.
Unfortunately, he didn't do that when he saw the abs on Adam Driver, and it ruined him in The Last Jedi.
So something I forgot to, and I was like kicking myself that I didn't mention this on the last episode, but and I know you're aware of this. So like there's the point in Return of the Jedi when Han and Leia are at the little blast door to try and get in, and then she gets shot. Harrison Ford just flat out feels her up like right after she gets shot. And please tell me that you're aware of this. Like he flat out like gropes her. Like she gets shot in the left arm, and Harrison Ford just like grabs Carrie Fisher's like left breast and just like he's like, "You okay?" Like obviously he didn't get shot there, but he like grabs her there. It's just so funny. Like I forgot about that. I even noticed that when I was little, and I was like, "That's kind of a weird thing. Like that's weird." But then I noticed that like there's like on YouTube, people realize like, "Hey, do you ever check out the point where Harrison Ford feels her up?" Like, holy shit! I thought I was the only person that realized that. Same thing with the stormtrooper that hits his head on the door
Mm-hmm.
in A New Hope. But yeah, so I don't know, just funny thing. I wanted to get that out there because the 13-year-old in me needed to talk about that just because it's so funny.
There's nothing wrong. You don't know if she's gonna live through that blast.
It's
It's
so
looking
funny,
bleak.
man.
It's looking bleak, and it is what it is.
Like I was trying to see like what is her facial expression as to what it is. Like I think they were just flirting on set. Like the
Oh,
the
I'm pretty
editor just
sure they
didn't
were
catch it.
banging at that point.
Was it
Like
at that point, or I thought it
I
was?
didn't. I have yet to read Carrie Fisher's book where she talks about it. Because she also talks about like a lot of negative things. So I'm like,
Yeah.
I like the positive from my childhood sometimes, but it is what it is. I think it's good old '80s fun with way too much misogynistic groping and boys will be boys, which is totally unacceptable now, which I
Yes.
agree with. But yeah, it's good old '80s fun.
But my number one is the first of the theatrically released Star Wars, A New Hope. So, like I said before, I've seen this movie legitimately over 100 times. And the reason why it ranks so high is nostalgia, but the fact that there is a journey there. You go from little farm boy Luke Skywalker, angsty, whiny, but you know what? His aunt and uncle get freaking fried and murdered by stormtroopers. And that's pretty deep, man, for I think it was a PG movie, whatever the rating was back then, or if there was a rating back then. But I thought that was like really deep, but it wasn't so upsetting that it ruins my experience for the movie. It was like, oh man, that really sucks, but it gave him purpose to go off with Obi-Wan. And you talk about the hero's journey. um, I think the beginning, if it's done well and it's done properly, that's probably the best thing that a hero's story can be, is that initial, the origin, if you will, for where their first steps are into heroism come into play. And when you tag team with Harrison Ford, Han and Chewie, and you go on this little adventure to save a princess, that's a pretty cool story, man. That's one of those things where it's like, yeah, I know we're trying to get to this planet, but it got blown to bits. But why don't we go save that person that happened to be on this little recording that this droid had? So that was really awesome, and I think just the banter back and forth with everyone, even just like those little things where they're playing the little space chess board with
Dejar,
Chewbacca. Yeah,
that they're doing this.
exactly. Yes. It's so cool. It's like some of those little things. There's like, wow, this is the shit that they do in space and in a galaxy far, far away. And I think it really, and I'm sure this, historically this is accurate as well too. This really opened up the door for a lot of science fiction and the realm of space. There's obviously a lot of copycats after the fact, and parodies. I mean, Spaceballs. I mean, come on. It's one of those things where you had adventure, you had excitement, and even though a Jedi does not crave those things, it was like really, really awesome. And kind of getting that first taste of what a Jedi is and getting an understanding, I think that painted the picture very well for it. Whereas I don't think it did it that. I don't think Empire did it as well as A New Hope in terms of exploring the Force. And that's why I put that ahead. And it's just an overall happier tone, even though there's a few bleak points. I thought the garbage compactor scene was really awesome too. Like I thought they were gone. Like how are they possibly going to get out of this? And they spin it a little comedically, like, oh no, they're dying, R2. Like 3PO, you idiot, they're fine. It's just so funny with a lot of those things. But that final attack, the Battle of Yavin was so badass. So many people in the battle, and even though it didn't really make sense, like some of those people that you were supposed to be, rooting for, or if they died, like who the hell cares? Porkins, for example, like why did anyone care about Porkins? And why did they feel the need to specify his name in the movie? It's just like one of those throwaway things, but it's just kind of funny. I enjoyed it. Yeah, just a feel good movie, but also it did have some serious points too. I thought it did a good job of balancing that stuff out. I think Empire was not as balanced because it focused more on like the downers and kind of like the serious themes and betrayal, things like that. Jedi, um, it had a better balance of the good and somber moments, but I think the acting was just not so great in that. And even though the acting in New Hope wasn't fantastic, I think the overall picture is the reason why I'm picking it as number one, and that whole nostalgic effect. If it was going for effects, how things can stand up, obviously Rogue One would be my number one pick, but there's a special place in my heart for that first Star Wars that I've seen over 100 times.
Can't argue. Can't argue. And respect your thought process there, sir.
Gotta
But I think we
respect it.
can agree that there's at least like 5 or 6 really great movies on these lists.
Yeah, yeah, and I think I'm surprised that we were as aligned as we were, with the exception of Phantom Menace. Man, like I still don't get it.
I mean, dude,
Still
it
don't get it.
also gave you the number 2 best. The Phantom Menace produced the number 2 best Weird Al Star Wars themed song of all time.
What was it?
The saga begins,
You know
where it
what?
was based on American Pie.
Oh yes, 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 yes. I
Yes,
do remember
yes,
that.
yes. But the number 2 Weird Al Star Wars song, because how can you beat Yoda? Yo 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 Yoda.
Man, so music overall. The funny thing is, like for Phantom Menace, I actually did not like that song, like, or not the song, but that particular part of the score, the Duel
The
of the
Duel of
Fates.
Fates. Oh,
Um, and I actually played that in band in high school, and it was just like a piss poor arrangement, and just it didn't sound that
mm.
good. But yeah, like it was, looking back at it now, appreciating the lightsaber battle, how well it was done, how well it was shot, and also the fluidity of everything,
Hmm.
along with the music. I'm like, okay, I can dig it. But I think if you take some of this stuff out, piece by piece, it's like, oh, you know what? I don't like it as much. So that is one thing I will give to the Phantom Menace. So you put all that stuff together, and that is what made that particular part of the movie. I'm not going to say it made the movie, because I thought the movie was dog shit, but yeah, that lightsaber battle was pretty sweet.
No, and I can see moving Rogue One up a little bit, I just I felt sacrilegious moving it above New Hope, right? And it was just like, well, you know, one begat the other in the long run, and a lot of respect to the original trilogy, the Star Wars of my youth. But Return of the Sith was just a badass movie. Um, in a time where everybody was too busy hating, it was by far the best of the prequels. But I also enjoy the fact that we both had more of an appreciation for the prequels than the sequels.
Yeah, I think it was very. I could have taken the easy way and just been like, well, yeah, the effects are better. Yeah, the star power is better. But no, I mean, like, really, when you put it into the perspective of like, okay, obviously, the effects at the time were good. You know, maybe even great. I
Revolution.
don't know.
The one thing you could say about Star Wars movies in general is they constantly pushed the envelope for special effects.
Yes.
Space movies pre A New Hope did not have the same level of practical effects and camera work. It was just like, oh, look, I got a spaceship on a stick and it's moving through the air. Or you had Stanley Kubrick, who, ugh. So it's a huge, huge step forward, and they continue to do step forwards. Shit, what Lucasfilm is doing now with the volume that they shot The Mandalorian in, that's just a 300, that's like a dome of LED TVs that they were able to set up. It's so crazy what Lucas and ILM did. I mean, you want to talk about a movie that literally sparked the company that did the special effects for the best movies on the planet. Industrial Light and Magic, huge, huge things came from these movies. So it's always great to talk about things that have had such a big impact on the world. I mean, the Marvel movies and Spider-Man No Way Home, having a huge impact on the money making for Disney and
Yeah.
just the zeitgeist now. But these movies, I mean, without the Star Wars movies, do Marvel movies even get made?
It's a good point. I mean, do you maybe, this might be a open discussion for next time, maybe we can go Marvel versus Star Wars as to, what's more impactful or, both from a money perspective and cinematic perspective as well. But yeah, you know what? Star Wars has been such a huge, really a huge undertaking for a lot of facets, video games, movies, pop culture, Comic Cons, things like that. I mean, it's a huge, huge influence, and
Toys.
obviously, from the effects aspects, toys, absolutely for sure. By the way, I may have told you this, but my older brother, had a bunch of the Star Wars toys, and or the action figures. You know what I did with them? I beheaded them. So when I was younger, like I had this like tool that could like chop things, and I
Chopped up a
beheaded.
lot of money, buddy.
Yeah, yeah. So I know I had chopped up a stormtrooper, one of the Red Imperial Guard or whatever the hell they're
Those aren't
called.
worth that much. It's fine.
Well,
It's fine.
yeah,
You
but
didn't
there
you didn't
was
behead a double telescoping Luke. It's okay.
yeah.
Or a
I don't
rocket
think he
firing
had
Boba Fett.
the really cool ones, but I did behead a Luke, and I don't think I did a Han Solo, but one of the yeah, I don't know, but
You're a really
uh,
messed up kid. We got to watch out. You're going to become a Sith Lord soon.
hey man, if I can learn more of the Force, not just the dogmatic view
You just want
of
the
the Jedi.
lightning. You just want the lightning.
Yeah, Force lightning, man. That's everyone should have it, and the baddest people on the planet should, whether they're on the Jedi side or on the dark side, but Force lightning. so much easier to use than a laser sword.
Except a laser sword repels it
True.
and blocks it back on you until you become a California raisin.
I forgot about how ridiculous that
It's
was.
the only bad part of Revenge of the Sith.
I mean, he becomes so perfect and like perfectly symmetrical from from force lightning. Oh my gosh. It's like he should owe Mace Windu like, a tip. It's like, oh wow, you gave me like a really nice facial that gave me like this great symmetry on my face. But
Oh,
oh man. But all right, well, any other parting words before we end our Star Wars rankings?
no, I think that we covered a lot, and I think that we made our arguments well, and we're leaving with a certain level of respect for both of each other's tastes when it comes to this.
Yes, and no respect towards The Last Jedi because that movie's dog shit.
None. You
Well,
know what? I'm going to call it right now. We are going to do a full Ryan Johnson boycott on this podcast. No Ryan Johnson movies will ever be reviewed.
I don't know about never. I think maybe if we want to go into like a shit on fest, I think we could always do something.
No
like
Ryan
that.
Johnson movies will ever be reviewed positively.
Sounds good, man. But hey, pleasure doing this with you. I'm Dan.
I'm Mark.